you love meatballs, this dish is going to blow your mind because these are my version of Indian meatballs, or kofta as we like to call them. I'm going to get straight into the cooking. I've got some minced lamb here, about 400 grams. That's probably going to make about 12 to 15 little kofta or meatballs. First thing I'm going to do is chop up some fresh coriander. The way that we eat kofta varies. You could cook them up, the lovely little meatballs, and put them into a curry, or you can just use them as little nibbles and little starters. I like to make mine fairly simply in that I spice them fairly delicately because I like to use them with lots of chutneys and lots of different types of tangy chutneys, whether that be tomatoes, whether that be a mint chutney. So I like to keep the flavours quite simple. So I've got some coriander that I've just chopped up. I'm going to put a teaspoon of cumin seeds in, which I'm going to give a good bash to. Just start to release those natural oils and the aromatics from them. That's what you're looking for. It doesn't need to be a fine powder or anything like that. So we're just going to sprinkle that in. The other bits are going to be some garam masala, so a nice big heaped teaspoon of garam masala. I might put just a little bit more in. I'm going to put some salt for seasoning, so again to taste, but probably about a teaspoon. I'm also going to use cinnamon with this. It's not something that I use a lot. I tend to use cassia bark, which has got a similar flavour, but I'm going to use cinnamon in here because I want a little bit of warmth. So a nice teaspoon of cinnamon in there. And then some chilli powder. Now, if you wanted to, you could by all means chop up some garlic and some ginger and some chilies really finely and pop those in as well. But as I said, I want to keep this fairly simple. So that's all I'm going to use in terms of spices. And I'm just going to start to squidge it all in. So really get in there and push it through your fingers so all the flavours and all the spices blend through all of that meat. And what I've already done is I've got some chutney that I made earlier, some tangy tomato 5-spiced chutney that I'm going to use, and I'm quite excited about dipping these into them. What I like to do, here's a little tip for you, a little bit of oil and just rub that together, and what that does is it stops the meat sticking to your fingers when you're making your little kofta or your little ball. So take a small size. You're looking for, I like to make them slightly smaller than a golf ball size because I don't want them too big. There's lots of flavour in there, so you want little bite-size bombs. But again, it depends how you're serving them. If you're serving them as a little starter, you could make them even smaller, but I'm going to go with that size today. When you're making them up, make sure that you iron out any of the creases or any of the cracks because you don't want them to break up whilst you're frying them. So use your, be fairly firm with them. Make sure that you've got your frying pan on just on a very low heat so that it's starting to heat through, so it's ready for you to fry your kofta off. My pan's been on a low heat. I'm going to put a little bit of oil in, not too much, because you're going to get quite a lot of fat or oil coming out of the kofta themselves, but I don't want to put them quite in a dry pan. So I'm just going to let that heat up just for a couple of seconds. That's it, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that lovely sizzle. And I'm probably going to put them all in. You don't want to overcrowd the pan, but you may as well make use of all the space that you've got. You want them to go a beautiful sort of goldeny brown colour, which will probably take about 10 to 15 minutes, but you'll need to turn them over, and already I can smell that cinnamon coming through these, so keep that on fairly low heat. Okay, I'm just going to check them. There we go. I'm going to start to turn them over. You can see that one side's already starting to brown off, so I'm just going to turn those over. And by all means, use a pair of tongs, use whatever you're comfortable with. I tend to go in with my fingers.